UCLA takes down Sacramento State 79 to 48. Um, you thought this game was going to be closer than I did. I still thought this game was going to be closer than it actually was. Uh, for Sacramento State, you had basically everyone go cold shooting the ball. UCLA's defense was suffocating. Mikey Williams was 2 of 14 from the floor. Uh, you didn't get anything from Shakir O'Neal. Um, Prophet Johnson had the most made shots. He was 4 of 11, and Summers was 3 of 6. And that was basically all the positives for Sacramento State. For UCLA, you had a you had a new starting lineup. I think that Mick Cronin threw out there kind of for this game. Um, Eric Daly, Trent Perry, Jamar Brown, Brandon Williams, Steven Jamerson. Um, Donovan Dent had a rough shooting night, to say the least. But Xavier Booker, Eric Daly, uh, combined for 27 points on 18 shots. I'm Connor. He's Subi with Sleepers Media. Subi, when you were watching this game, UCLA jumped out to a very early lead. I think it was like 25 to 12 or something pretty quickly. What were your takeaways from? I mean, obviously the starting lineup is probably going to revert back to what it was, possibly, um, when UCLA takes on stronger competition. But what were some of your takeaways from this game, especially from maybe some of the guys who aren't traditionally starters?
Yeah, so I think real quick we should make a caveat for Sacramento State and any Stingers fans watching this. Like we acknowledge also that Jeremiah Cherry got hurt. I think about 8 minutes left in the first half. I think he had a right knee injury, which is a real shame because I've been saying that been their best player all season. And so when they didn't really have much of a chance with him in the ball game, but without him, it was just zero chance whatsoever. And then you couple in the fact you ask about my takeaways, right? UCLA's defense is you use the word suffocating, which is really, really apt. I think it's a perfect word. But if I were to piggyback off of that, it's just menacing. It's terrifying. It's engaged. It's engaged on every single possession. And you can all like people will say, oh man, like UCLA got whatever the opposite of a magnet ball is, but their ability to rotate, their ability to close out on defenders, their ability to uh, like frustrate, not close out on defenders, sorry, close out on ball handlers, and their ability to frustrate ball handlers is very impressive. Um, I think UCLA, for my money, is a top five defense in America. I don't know where they're at in KenPom now. I think they're like 10 to 15. I feel free to keep me honest whenever you can, Connor. But like
Yeah, I'm just looking that up right now. I don't know where they jumped up to. They're 12 right now.
I think that's undervalued for UCLA.
Mhm.
So their defense really stood out to me. You talk about the personnel that maybe don't necessarily get the most starter minutes, right? I mean, Eric Daly started, which is par for the course, but I was impressed with Jamar Brown, right? Jamar Brown had a relatively
Mhm.
efficient game. He was active on the boards, facilitated a little bit. He had 3 assists, right? I thought Jamar Brown did a really good job. And then Trent Perry was also pretty good. I don't think Trent Perry had the best game or best outing last time out. Um, but he hit 2 threes, went 2 or 3 from three, 4 or 7 overall, excuse me. So I thought Jamar Brown and Trent Perry doing or performing the way they did uh, after being inserted into the starting lineup was solid. How about you, Connor? Anything that jumped out to you?
Yeah, I mean, if you're Mick Cronin, you're probably still looking at this game like the offense just wasn't clean enough. And he's not one to like crave clean offense, but you lost the turnover battle against Sacramento State. Um, you were able to get to the line 24 times, but you only made two-thirds of your shots from the free throw line. Uh, 33% from deep. I feel like you'd want that to be a little bit higher. Um, I think when you're looking at this game, it was the defense made the offense look better than it probably actually was. That and the opponent that they were facing made the offense look better than it actually was. But you're right. I mean, the defense to hold an opponent to under 25% from the floor, um, they had the same number of turnovers as they had made shots. And mind you, I already said like Sacramento State won the turnover battle, had the same amount of turnovers as they had made shots. Um, you're gonna be happy with that. You won the rebound battle by 9. Um, Obviously you're the bigger team, you should, but like it's good to see that you win the rebounding battle when you should win the rebounding battle. Um, it's just it's the two things. It's the turnovers, which or not turnover. I mean, it's just the clean offense. Turnovers being part of that. 20 to 15 is not the greatest assist to turnover ratio you can have. I think the other thing is that they're like there's not really a reason, even if you're playing suffocating, chaotic defense, for you to nearly have 3 foul outs. Um, because a lot of that is just being out of position defensively,
Mhm.
right? And the fact that it was Tyler Bilodeau and Sky Clark who fouled out, 2 starters, and Xavier Booker almost fouled out. Like it's just and Sacramento State did a really good job of just trying to attack, trying to get to the line. They shot worse from the line than UCLA did. But I think it's just there's still for this UCLA team there's still a lot to clean up. But I do think that following up on your loss to Arizona in this way was a good sign, right?
Yeah.
Because you still your defense looked great. Um, your offense, the shooting wasn't as good as it was against Arizona, but the offense as a whole looked a little bit better. Um, so uh, it's just a matter of trying to fit yourself into like where are we at our best offensively, and then how can we make sure we can play the same style of suffocating defense without losing players, because it's one thing to foul out uh, against Sacramento State. It's another thing when you're now playing Purdue or when you're playing Illinois or when
Or
you're
you're
playing
playing,
Michigan State.
or they got you.
Yeah, or Gonzaga.
You got Gonzaga on the on the 13th of December, right?
Yeah.
So no, I totally agree with you with respect to the foul trouble and things that they can clean up. It seemed as if it was a lot of things that are in their control. And you mentioned the free throw shooting, like that wasn't good. They were sub 70. If they're going to play a physical brand of basketball, if they're going to be this tough nosed defense, which is exactly what they are, they're also going to get fouled on the other side of the ball, right? And that could also include a swiping down a defensive rebound and an opposing player like swipes at the ball. You're back at the line if they're in the bonus. So, of course, it's totally fine to shoot sub 70 against Sacramento State, but that's something that they can absolutely clean up. Donovan Dent, I'm not worried. I don't like using that word at this stage of the season, but I said in the preview he's slowly ramping back up or he's ramping back up, but this seemed like a bit of a regression tonight. And I don't know if that had anything to do with the fact that he was not in the starting lineup. I don't know what Mick's motive for that was. Like it wasn't just him, right? Like Sky Clark and Tyler Bilodeau also did not start, and it probably could have been a lot to do with the opponent. But Donovan Dent did not have a good game, and he's got to be better for them to be a threat for this offense to look good. I think Connor, what we're seeing is it's not necessarily them putting everything on Donovan Dent, but if he doesn't, like, it's the old adage, this offense goes as he goes. I think for the most part, for this Bruins team.
Yeah, I mean that's the way it should be, right? Because he came in to the portal as the best playmaker in the portal. And so when you have a guy like that, you should want him to make plays. We've discussed before about I think their insistence now at this point on using Eric Daly as like a
Yeah,
point forward, which it works, but you have Donovan Dent, right? It works. He had 4 assists in this game, I'm pretty sure, but you have Donovan Dent, who who did well from a facilitating perspective. You just need him to score a little bit more because he had, I mean, in this game he still had 7 assists, 0 turnovers, facilitated
true.
well.
That's true. I'm
Just
just saying, I need a bit more though. I think from Donovan Dent because of I think the main purpose was, hey, our offense was sorely lacking last year. Let's go ahead and get this ultimate playmaker, big Mountain West, excuse me, player of the year. I agree. The facilitating's there. That's awesome. Need a little bit better than 2-9 though. I don't know. Maybe I'm placing too higher
no, no,
expectations
you're
on the young man.
you are spot on. I just think that this game was just a bit of like we need something to change from our bench, so let's throw them in the starting lineup. Um, that's the way I read it, but because you got like virtually nothing from your bench against Arizona.
I think that's fair, Connor. Like Mick probably saw who was across from them and said, "Let's experiment." And that's what I it's interesting seeing teams either do that or don't, right? Like there's certain coaches or teams that say, "I don't care. Like I have my identity, I have my personnel, and I want to get them as many reps as possible and I want to play a certain style, a certain way, certain group." Although I would hazard to say, Connor, this is the perfect time of year, perfect matchups to experiment
It
or
is,
build
and
confidence, like you said.
it's really your last 2 matchups to experiment because they've got Presbyterian on Friday, and then they kind of just get into it, right? They get right after it. Um, Cal, Washington, Oregon, Gonzaga, all before Arizona State, all before Christmas. Three of those on the road. Um,
I think they
and
can win all of those games except for Gonzaga, though.
fair, fair, but like that's before Christmas, and
Mhm.
then you get 2 more games. You don't really want to like do like experimenting in your first 2 games before Big Ten
Conference play. Yeah.
really starts. Um, and then it's your first two out of the New Year's break is at Iowa, at Wisconsin,
Hmm.
which again, like should be winnable games for UCLA, but they're also road games in the Big Ten.
I don't know about Wisconsin, man. Iowa possibly, but I don't know about Wisconsin, dude. You talk about
Um,
great backcourse, but yeah.
but yeah, I think like it feels nitpicky to be like, oh, UCLA won by 31, and we're like critiquing what went wrong for them. But I feel like this is one of those teams. There's a few of them in the country. I'm going to throw out names. I don't think UCLA is quite at that level of disappointing yet. But like you throw out names like what we've seen from Kentucky, or even kind of what we've seen from Florida, where you're like looking at these teams that you thought were going to be really good, and they are good, but they're just that, right? Like UCLA, I feel like even at 4-1 with it was a 4 point loss to Arizona, has disappointed Mick.
Yeah, absolutely. He's impossible to
Like,
please.
but I don't necessarily disagree with him, right?
I
Like
don't know if go ahead, I'm sorry.
they had an 11 point win over Pepperdine. They had a 6 point win over Eastern Washington. Those are games that if you are truly like we are a team that should compete at the top of the Big Ten, that should compete for, you know, Final Fours or even Sweet 16s, like you need to put those games at home away. Um, West Georgia was better, but even that was like a 21 point win against a team, in the bottom 50 in the country. Arizona, they kind of had it and then lost it. Um, this was the first good game that you've watched from UCLA where you're like, oh, this team did exactly what they were supposed to do against Ken Palm's 279th ranked team.
Yeah, you could also argue though, if I'm playing not devil's advocate, but like if I'm supporting your side, which at a high level, I don't know if I'm necessarily where you are, but at the end of the day, UCLA did play Sacramento State without their best player for majority of the basketball game. So
Right.
that's something to take into account. I
Right.
just
And I'm
like
not saying that again, I think UCLA has been far less disappointing than Kentucky and Florida,
okay.
but I'm just saying like from the perspective of especially Florida too, where like Florida had both of them have the loss to Arizona, but Florida has won the games they've won in ways where you're like, okay, you should have just put this game away. Like if you truly are as good as everyone thought you were coming in, you should have put this game away. I feel like UCLA has had a bit of that to this point. This was the first game where they just kind of didn't mess around, like they didn't struggle. Um, and I'm sure Mick would tell you that too, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not like that's a secret. I don't think I'm being necessarily overly unfair to UCLA, because I do think that the talent on this team should be able to beat the Sacramento States and the Pepperdines and the Eastern Washingtons by 20 to 30. Like I
Yeah.
think that's where this talent is, and the fact that this was the first game where they've really put it all together, um, it's a good sign though, because it means
Yeah.
that they're improving. You just need to clean up the things that like this was the first time they've had foul trouble, really. So that's new. But I think the offensive stagnation, the kind of ball stopping that was present in the first few games isn't quite there. It wasn't quite there against Sacramento State, which I think was a good sign.
Yeah, I think just my last few thoughts here, Connor. I don't know if I'm necessarily even at the point that you are with UCLA, but that might be a mixture of things. One, I don't know if I necessarily had these lofty expectations that maybe some others did. I don't necessarily believe they're overall a top 15 team. I don't think they were coming into the season. So it might be something with respect to expectations, but also uh, they are elite, elite, elite in one category, which is defense. So that's something they can hang their hat on every single night. And that's very encouraging. And then a third thing, I think what I saw, so those wins against Pepperdine, and who was the other one? Like the one by 10 or
Eastern
11?
Washington, they won by
Eastern
6.
Washington. Okay. Those were not great, but you see the last couple games like super. I was very encouraged by UCLA against Arizona because they ran clinical offense and defense for the first 10 minutes or so. And then they just lost to a better team, I think, or a team that's at least playing better basketball for sure. But they were there. They were right there against Arizona. And then this game was very comprehensive. I think I've just there, and you're right. You've mentioned as much. I just don't know if I'm necessarily super worried about UCLA. And I think also, lastly, Connor, like this is just kind of what I've come to expect with their offense. And I know they brought in Donovan Dent; he's got to get going. But when you go back to the offense that I've seen the last 2 years or so, I guess I don't know how to explain it. I'm just like, yeah, I guess that's UCLA. Maybe we'll see what it looks like with a fully healthy Donovan Dent with a few more games under his belt. Last few things though, they didn't allow any fast break points from Sacramento State, which is pretty impressive. Really the only drama in this one was if Sacramento State was going to hit double digit field goals. They did. They got 13, like you had mentioned. And in the preview, Connor, we said what Shaq's son is on Sac State. Apparently, Robert Ory's kid is on UCLA. Christian Ory. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep. No, and I agree with you. Maybe I'm being too harsh. It was a combination of like against they've come out flat in all their games except for that. Like, well, I guess this one in Arizona, but like they were losing 10 minutes into the game against Eastern Washington. They were only up 5 10 minutes into the game against Pepperdine. They were up 7 10 minutes into the game against their worst opponent of the season in West Georgia. Um, they were up 3 against Arizona, which I feel like was less them coming in hot and more Arizona only scored 15 points in the first 10 minutes. Um, but then they scored 7 points from the 10-minute mark till the end of the first half. UCLA did against Arizona. Uh, this was a game where they were up 18 10 minutes into this game. They came out hot. They just kind of kept the pedal down. They won the first 10 minutes by 18. They won the second 10 minutes by 7. They did lose by 2 in the first 10 minutes out of the half, but that, I mean, at that point, it's like you're kind of on cruise control. Locked in, won the last 10 minutes by 8. So it was the first, I feel like, start to finish, we're the best team on the floor. And that was good to see. Regardless of who the opponent was, that was good to see from UCLA. I think that this is a team that's going to grow into itself. And once they figure out that putting the ball in Donovan Dent's hands at all times is probably the way that things should go when Donovan Dent is on the floor, I feel like this offense will come around too.
Totally with you. Totally with you. But
Yep. Well, that'll do it for us. UCLA will next play, as I mentioned, Presbyterian on Friday. For those who are mid-major sickos like myself, Sacramento State will take on Cal on the road on Friday. I might try to go check out that game. Depends
you
on
should.
what my
You
schedule
should.
is.
Mark Madsen and Mike Bibby. This
Maybe,
like an
yeah.
0-2 Western Conference Finals. What are we looking at here? That could be fun.
Um, but make sure you guys tune in to all the previews and recaps that Sleepers is putting out, as well as Dion's new morning show, and everything else that the boys are putting out because it's gonna be a great season. We've already had a great season. Uh, this might be the best start to a college basketball season we've had since they did away with like the 24-hour midnight madness on the first day of the season. So. I don't know. It was I've been really negative, but I think that this was the first game that UCLA's played where I'm like, okay, like I can see this team doing really good things in March.